Welcome to the 707, a weekly half-hour program produced by KRCB, a service of NorCal Public Media. The 707 features voices and stories from your community, stories that inspire, stories that explore the world around us, and stories that show how we are connected to each other. Earth Day is April 22nd, a day to celebrate the planet's ecosystems, counteract climate change, and act on what we can do locally to benefit the Earth. The city of Santa Rosa hosts its own Earth Day event on Saturday, April 26th at Courthouse Square. But blocks away from the hustle and crowds, a pair of artists have devoted the month of April to their own appreciation of the planet.
We love to work together, and April's our month because, like many artists over the centuries, certainly in our moment now, artists have used nature, the earth, the planet, all the green things that grow so beautifully in Sonoma County and across the world as muse. I suppose that's what April is about, is trying to make people more aware, observe, appreciate, gratefulness for this amazing miracle that's this big blue marble, this planet.
That's painter Mary Vaughan. She and assemblage artist Rachel DuFour have been collaborating on Earth Day shows for 5 or 6 years now. Their show called Ode to the Earth opens on April 4th, followed by a talk with the artists on April 5th, and another event on April 19th with poetry and speakers. Mary's studio is in Santa Rosa's Sofa District, a quirky neighborhood tucked between Juilliard Park and Highway 101 that has blossomed over the years into an artist community. There are over a dozen artist studios, a theater, an arts center, eateries, and boutique shops. The Sofa District is also home to a yearly celebration called Winter Blast in November, where artists decorate actual sofas and parade them down the street. I head along South A Street to Art Alley, which leads to Backstreet Gallery, where Mary Vaughan has her studio. I meet up with Mary and Spring Maxfield, who is the director of the Santa Rosa Urban Arts Partnership.
Yeah, I love it. I love your studio.
Along the walls of her small studio are multiple paintings in various states of completion, and there's a paper taped to the wall to catch paint splatters. Mary preps her work with abstract splotches of paint and literally throws paint at her canvases, which invariably leaves color drips everywhere. I notice a few tiny dots of paint on her eyelid, a telltale sign of a creative burst. Mary explains how she repurposes thrifted materials into her artwork.
That's another component to Earth Day, is that this notion of trying to save things and not fill our landfills and so forth. So I know Rachel DuFour, she just collects the most beautiful antique, very selective, but we go to thrift stores and antique stores and find these old items that go into her assemblage. And then I like to just put some kind of an old flat panel. My collections have to be kind of nostalgic. They have to have a little bit of, I suppose some people would call it retro, but I'm not that cool. I'm more old-fashioned, but I do love old fonts and the way weather will wear something away. And that's what Rachel and I have in common. But she'll collect rusty antique Buddha figures that are hand-carved hundreds of years ago. I'll collect color. You know, I'm after that wonderful metal sign or that flat toy from the 60s that really intrigues me with color. And I incorporate those into the way we work. I'm a painter first and foremost. I don't want to become a sculptor, but there's something about a flat panel from years ago. It's almost like a hammer handle or something. If you hold that long enough, there's spirit on it. You know, somebody else has used it, and that really intrigues me. So I'm kind of bringing others along with me when I do that. I don't know if the work shows that or not, but it's certainly something I think about when I put things together.
Mary Vaughan's pieces are instantly recognizable by the energy and movement she captures in her art. The birds in her painting look like they're ready to fly off. Even landscapes seem to sway with the wind. Spring Maxfield agrees.
It's wonderful, and I've always loved that too. We bought a chair a long time ago that is on our front porch, and it gets compliments every single time, and you embedded marbles into the chair. It looks like the chair is in full motion too. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Rachel DuFour was unable to join us in Mary's studio, but I reached out to her to ask about her art practice, which is called assemblage, similar to collage but with objects instead of paper or magazine clippings.
The assemblage I do is a little different than most artists. I actually collect old objects. Like Mary said, I love older things, especially if they're 100, 200 years old, things like that have either a folk art quality to it or a artisan quality that's so well done. My objects that are drawn to most of the time are hand carved on one piece of wood, and they've been around for a long time. I find these things at yard sales and flea markets.
Mary describes Rachel's work as something akin to an altar.
When I say altar-esque, they're sacred, some of them. When she collects things, she'll also have to find, if it's a carving from an old temple that's hundreds of years old, she'll have to find old nail screws and other boards of the period, or at least old, to make the whole piece. I mean, she's very particular about that, and I think because of that, there's this beautiful quality that comes forward. It's just all about the old and time and passages. I like showing with her because the pieces feed off of each other.
Mary and Rachel have invited a young artist named Madelaine Williams to join them, whose work echoes the theme of Earth Day. Mary says she's known Madelaine for years as a family friend.
One day she came in and maybe in high school and said, "Can I have your paint pants? They have paint all over them. I'd love to have your paint pants." I said, "Okay." I gave her a pair of my paint pants, and about 6 months later she came back and she had embroidered and stitched into them the most beautiful patterns just because she wanted to. They're my absolute favorite pants to wear. Thank God I can still fit into them. And I'll have those on during our opening. And then I invited Madelaine to maybe show 2 or 3 of her thrift pieces that she has sewn into. I call her a stitch artist. She's only 20. She goes to the JC, but she was perfect because she doesn't want to fill the landfills with clothing. You know, she's against fast fashion and wants to reuse clothing.
In the next segment of the 707, we'll meet 20-year-old artist Madelaine Williams and learn how she uses a technique called visible mending to honor clothing and keep it out of landfills. This is KRCB.
KRCB is Sonoma County's NPR station, featuring the voices, sounds, and culture that make our home unique. From the heartwarming tales of postcards,
our grandmother was the founder of Juneteenth in Sonoma County,
to the Arts Briefs series shining a spotlight on the incredible youth in the arts scene.
Mariachi can express everything that you feel.
And farm tales.
We live in this beautiful area that allows all forms of success in agriculture.
Your stories, your station. KRCB 104.9, Sonoma County's NPR station.
I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News with a little something to kickstart your mornings. Sonoma First News is a weekday morning podcast with the top local stories and weather updates from across Sonoma County. From Petaluma to Bodega Bay, Sonoma First News has you covered. Subscribe now through KRCB's website, on the NorCal mobile app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Sonoma First News from Sonoma County's NPR station, KRCB FM.
Welcome back to the 707 on KRCB. Madelaine Williams is joining the Ode to the Earth exhibit with a few of her embroidered pieces. I got her on the phone to ask about her work, including the paint pants that she mended for Mary Vaughan.
So she gave me 2 pairs of her jeans that she painted in, and maybe she paints in everything, but they were kind of covered in paint, and she was friends with my grandma and my dad. And she knew that I did some art things, and so she was kind of just telling me about her process as an artist growing up. And she talked a lot about tennis. And the first pair of jeans I did, I embroidered a tennis racket and a tennis ball. So I just incorporated stuff that she told me about herself into the pants. And then the second pair was a little more freeform because there was one leg that was completely covered in paint, and then the other leg had a hole in it. So I mimicked that paint pattern, but with embroidery thread instead, and then I gave them back to her, and it was fun. I got some crazy blisters. I'd mended things for other people before, but I hadn't really made something into my own project before, so it was cool that she wanted to trust me with that.
Madelaine finds deeper meaning to mending clothing and avoiding fast fashion.
Fashion is such a beautiful exploration of one's self, and the fact that it can be so evil and ugly. I want to make it a more beautiful process.
This isn't the first time Mary Vaughan has mentored young artists. In March 2024, she brought together 7 young artists and offered them coaching and advice to help them hone their skills, both with their artwork and with the business side of making art into a career. Spring Maxfield says she's a bit jealous of the opportunity these young women have.
I wish I had her when I was younger. I'm like, wow, I lacked mentors. But
wow.
Mary, I would have
you're just
like
passing it
curled
on
under your wing and just been so happy.
You're welcome to anytime. I still have one wing that works. So just go right under. It's very fluffy and soft. We'll get you in there, Spring.
Actually, I feel like that every time I see you, I feel like you kind of just wrap your wings around me and give me like all the the warm fuzzy boosts, and it's really sweet to be around you.
Well worth it, Miss Spring Maxfield. You work your tail off for all of us in the arts, so I'm more than happy.
So let's talk about that.
Yes.
Spring Maxfield here. Tell me about the Santa Rosa Urban Arts Partnership.
Oh my goodness. I think we've been in a period of growth for 7-8 years now, and really kind of honing in on where we can meet the most need within the arts community. And that really for me is bolstering artists and making them a real economic part of the whole system, and making sure that artists can do what they're meant to do, which is do art and not work for DoorDash or day jobs that they hate, and finding opportunities for artists to make money from their art is really important. What we can do is by supporting artists when they get a big commission, and the cost of engineering and insurance will eat up that commission before they ever get to do the piece, we can underwrite that for them. We've got some foundational support here. Also making everybody artists with events like Winter Blast, which we stepped into 4 years ago, but this will be its 21st year, and Mary has been one of the originators of that, really taking it out of the studios and putting it on the street and letting people come in and participate. We're inviting more people in, inviting more people to participate. Build a sofa, build a giant puppet, build an incredible lantern. Come down and celebrate with your community, because I think when we all feel part of something bigger than ourselves, we're all much happier. And especially given these times, I think we need that vitality that really strong community connection brings.
Mary says there was a group of people involved in creating the first Winter Blast event over 2 decades ago.
The instigator, I feel, was Andrea Hibbard. She started talking to me and a few others about it. There were many people involved. And the funniest thing for me was that I had moved from Nebraska, where it's blizzard cold all winter, and she wanted to call it Winterfest. I said, no, it's not a Winterfest. It's more like funny that we have snowflakes and snowmen out because we're in California. She said, how about Winter Blast? She really wanted it to be eclectic.
Mary says the Ode to the Earth show is another attempt to build community around the arts.
Most of the reason I try to do this type of thing, have little activities, have little talks, have a little poetry in the round, which is coming up on April 19th, is to really give people an opportunity to be part of the arts, but mostly to find meaning in a world that is very chaotic, that can cause great anxiety, great chaos, when in fact the arts are the perfect place to remind you, slow down, pause. Life is still good. There are still great people working on our behalf. You're in a cycle of life. You're on a planet. You are born, you live, you leave. Hello, slow down a little bit. And I think that Winter Blast in some bigger, crazy way has a very deep undercurrent of community, art, science, building, and the feeling that night is what I love. It's a spirit that comes only through the humanities and the arts, and it includes everybody. It's inclusive.
I think for the artists here in the SOFA district, these events like Earth Day and Ring the Bells kind of bring it back into what Winter Blast was in the very beginning, which was really about the arts here, quiet, more meditative, more contemplative recognition of this community here, and I mean, almost Church of Art, right? I mean,
I'm so glad you said
spiritual practice is we may be atheists or we may not have a religion we're very tied to, but I think we can all find that integration between arts and ecology, and that's where Santa Rosa Relief comes in as part of the larger California Relief program. Well, planting trees seems like a divergence from Santa Rosa Urban Arts Partnership. What we really are about is placemaking and community building. And if you don't love where you live, if your environment is hostile, like too hot when you walk down the street, you're not going to be happy. And so creating places where people want to live, where people want to thrive and be themselves is really important. And planting trees is absolutely perfect for that, especially right now when so many trees are being cut down around Santa Rosa. And I know they've got their problems. They shouldn't have been planted in the first place. They're in the wrong environment. They're breaking up sidewalks, etc. But we are absolutely losing our shade canopy, and that will be devastating to the city. So we need to start planting trees now for future generations.
Spring is referring to Santa Rosa Relief, an organization that plants trees in urban areas to restore natural beauty and provide a higher quality of life to people living in all areas of the city. The Ode to the Earth art show will feature an eco talk by Beth Brown, director of Santa Rosa Relief, on April 19th.
It boosts property values. I mean, if we're having trouble getting through to people because of the environmentalism of it all, I mean, look at hard numbers. Your house is going to do a lot better on the market if it has a big tree in front.
I'd go so far as to say trees plant life, the green of our planet. It educates and it connects us to the cycle. We are more aware of our own being when we're in a natural environment, our place in it. But it also, I think, it's a sacred thing, to have shade. It's aesthetic, but it also is vital to mentality. If you have trees and earth and garden near you, you're going to walk through the world differently than cement, air-conditioned elevators. I remember as a young child, maybe 12, I had a poster of Jacques Cousteau. I was in the middle of Nebraska, no water anywhere, but I loved whales. Get a load of that. And I had Jacques Cousteau on my bedroom wall, and I had remember seeing him on Johnny Carson, and he had said, they were talking about war. Jacques Cousteau said, well, there's only one answer to world peace. And Johnny Carson said, well, what is that? He said, well, teach every 12-year-old how to garden, and then when they turn 13, have them live for 1 year in a different country. And I thought to myself that, number one, teach them how to garden. That's just so vital to being a full human being, to understanding where you fit in the cycle.
Mary says the whole month of April is dedicated to art and ecology.
It opens with our show called Ode to the Earth on first Friday, April 4th, 5 to 8 p.m. The whole neighborhood will be open and everybody will be all excited. Then on the 5th, I'll give a little talk at Backstreet at 11 a.m. on the 5th, just Rachel and I. But on April 19th, I built in Poetry in the Round, Beth Brown from Relief, Spring Maxfield. Anytime spring is on there, I know something will happen. And that day we also meet just 11 to noon, and we'll open with Beth talking to us a little bit about being astonished. And then we'll close with how art meets ecology, and that'll be the way April ends. And then our show will just be up through Easter Sunday, which is the 20th, and then we're done.
Mary says part of the show includes audience participation.
I encourage people, if they come on April 19th, come a little early. There'll be chairs out. If you want to read a poem, just let me know when you show up. Say, hey, I'm going to read something. We'd love it 3 or 4 minutes or less. The first year we did this, I painted a big earth with a little altar shelf below it. We didn't quite know what to do with it the first year, except where we stood in front of it when we read poems. Now it's become an Earth Day altar. So I also, if you're quiet and you just want to come listen to the poems or the talk, I encourage people to bring an actual blue marble as a symbol to the earth and make a wish on our Earth Day altar, a wish for the earth. And people really enjoy that. And it's amazing how many blue marbles I get.
I love it.
The Sofa District is home to many art galleries, and the Backstreet Gallery is tucked away down a side street called Art Alley.
It's a building that's been in the neighborhood for many years. It finally got purchased by the Imaginist Theater Collective. They write and perform their own work, and they just happen to own this building. So every time the 10 or 11 artists that are down here at Backstreet, down Art Alley, off of 312 South A, every time we write a rent check, I'm always happy because I know I'm paying that mortgage to the theater. It's really a building that is all about the humanities, owned and run by a theater company, and we feel really happy about that.
The Ode to the Earth exhibit opens April 4th and runs through April 20th. I'm your host and producer of this program, Michelle Marquis. Thanks for listening. This show is a service of NorCal Public Media. Our president and CEO is Darren Lachelle.